And that one, and I need to get what was that? It's some band a rock band that had a bagpipes in it. It was the name of the album was "Keep Your Hands Off My Power Supply," and the hit song they had was "Run, Run Away." And
That's Slade.
No, who's that?
Slade.
That's it. That's it. With the redhead guy, he's kind of wild looking, had a kilt. I just remember watching that video on MTV, like going, "What the hell is this?"
You know, you watch a Boston Red Sox game, and you'll hear the heavy metal music, and you can hear the bagpipes integrated into it. That's the Dropkick Murphys.
Yeah, yeah.
And they are really impressive.
I know that. I know the Dropkick Murphys, but yeah, I just remember that album. I'm just going, the song was called "Runaway," and the album's name was "Keep Your Hands Off My Power Supply."
That is Slade. That came out about 1983, 84, somewhere in there.
That would have been the era when I was watching like MTV. My parents were worried my brain was going to rot out watching MTV. And then on weekends, I'll watch night tracks on TBS, and I'll watch Friday night videos on NBC. My parents were like really worried about me for a while because I admit this on this show, but this is a dichotomy of my personality. I liked seeing Quiet Riot, Metal Health, and all those bands, but I also enjoy Culture Club too. And then that's when my parents were really like, "Is that a man or is that a woman? What is that?" And I'm like, "Don't worry about it. It's a good song. I like the bass. I like the R&B flavor of this, a calypso flavor. Just leave it alone. All right, they got some good stuff here." But anyway. I'll admit that on this show because, like I said, I've got it. I know my music taste sucks, but I'm the only one who has to listen to it, so that's fine. I mean, but yeah,
one of these days we're going to have to do a music only podcast.
Absolutely, because I could go on for a while about that stuff. But yeah, that was the fun days. You come home from school and watch MTV for like 4 hours. So
yeah, that's back when MTV actually played.
Right. And now you go to YouTube and I watch these videos and I start, like I was watching Hearts Never. And I'm going, how did that go from a hot looking chick to a Halloween costume? Because you look at what they've got on and the permed out big hair and everything. I'm like, yeah, that's what people make fun of now. But, Nancy was hot.
Nancy, the guitar player.
Right.
The blonde. Mm-hmm. You know who her husband is, right?
Wasn't he the other guitarist in the band?
No. Her husband's Cameron Crowe.
Oh, I did not know that.
Director made Fast Times at Ridgemont High, and
of course.
Nancy was actually in Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Really?
Yeah, when he gets in the cruising vessel to make the delivery for the food place, and he pulls up there and he's trying to be all cool and slimy. He doesn't realize.
Yeah, Judge Ron Holdomini's got Judge Ronald's got the pirate hat on, and she's in the Ferrari or whatever.
It's a Corvette.
And
she
okay.
Beside that, Nancy Wilson.
I have to go back and look at. You're right. Now I think about that. No, the Ferrari was Chevy Chase in Vacation with and that was Christy Brinkley pulled up in the Ferrari. Yeah, that's the movie I was thinking of. But yeah, well, I was watching Better Off Dead the other night, so that's another classic film. I just love that film. I love everything about that film. He keeps trying to put his testicles all over me. His what? Like the octopus, tentacles. It's just such a great line. All right. Welcome, everybody, to another exciting episode of Under the Dome as we relive the 80s on this show. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. As you can see, we're having some fun. It started off the air with the conversation about the title of this podcast tonight, being Safety Dance. And we try and pick titles of songs that kind of fit what we're going to talk about, mainly from the 80s as best we can. And I've been kind of crossing genres. I've thrown some country song titles in there and things like that. But tonight was the one hit wonder by the band called Men Without Hats, the Safety Dance. And so the reason why is obviously because we're going to talk about the safety position tonight. Next week, next Wednesday, I believe, free agency starts right
Sunday.
at midnight. Oh, Sunday? I
Yeah.
thought it was the middle of the week. Okay. So Sunday then. Sunday. Remember the old Raceway commercials? Baton Rouge drag strip? Yeah. Sunday. So the big question tonight is Vonn Bell, do the Saints re-sign him? And if they do, how that affects the safety position. If they do not re-sign him and choose to let him walk and promote Chauncey Gardner Johnson, what does that mean as far as where the Saints are going to go in the draft, in free agency targets? How does that play out?
Okay, you and I are Sean Payton and Mickey Loomis.
Yeah.
I'll play the part of Sean Payton.
Okay.
The whole the name thing.
All right.
Do you look at the body of work that Chauncey Gardner Johnson put together over the course of the season last year?
Mm-hmm.
And do you think that he has accomplished enough to pick up that mantle that Vonn Bell has had since he was drafted?
I don't think Chauncey Gardner Johnson is my future at strong safety. I think he's my future at free safety, honestly. And that's where I'm going with this. I think the Saints need to sign Vonn Bell like yesterday. Re-sign him right before he hits the free agent market, and before the market kind of gets out of whack. Because I like Vonn Bell as my starting strong safety. I think he is a great in the box player, and I think he really solidifies that defense, the back end of that defense, with his leadership. Um, I think Chauncey Gardner Johnson is an ideal nickelback, roamer, free safety kind of guy. And if we have to make a decision next year on Marcus Williams, and we decide we want to go in a different direction, then I think that's where Chauncey Gardner Johnson belongs in the free safety spot. I just don't. I
I'm
think
going
it's
to make a bold statement on Vonn Bell.
okay.
And I mean, you can agree or disagree. It's really not that important. But I would submit to you that Vonn Bell has probably been the most consistent performer in that secondary in the past 2 to 3 seasons.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that.
You look at Marshawn Lattimore at corner, and it's up and down. He's been consistently inconsistent.
Mm-hmm.
You look at whichever other cornerback it is this week. It's been a steady rotating field there, but obviously due to that, there's not been consistency there. Marcus Williams plays high, plays low,
Yep.
but Vonn Bell, he's not Ronnie Lott by any stretch of the imagination, but he's getting it done. I think he has been the most consistent player that you've had in the secondary.
I think he's a faster, more consistent, with better hands safety than Roman Harper. Okay.
Okay.
He is not, and if you're going to judge him on turnovers and interceptions and things like that, that's not his role in this defense. To me, it's not a coincidence that since he's been in the starting lineup, and that's 2017, since he's been in that starting lineup, that the Saints' run defense has been outstanding because he's in the box. He takes on the running back. He takes on the blockers. He is one of the reasons why the Saints can play that big nickel defense they like to play with only two linebackers because Vonn Bell can act basically as a third linebacker. So, absolutely, I like him. I want the Saints to keep him and sign him to a long term extension because I think he is the key to that secondary.
Absolutely.
I think to put Chauncey Gardner Johnson in as strong safety is really a waste of his abilities. Not that he's not a good tackler, not that he's not a good run supporter, but I think he's more of a playmaker that we've been looking for in that secondary since the days of Darren Sharper.
True. Very true.
I don't know if he can be a Darren Sharper. I mean, Marcus Williams came out like a house on fire, and this is my issue with Marcus Williams. I think there is a disconnect, and I do agree with this. There is a disconnect between what the fans perceive a player to be and how good that player is. And I think Marcus Williams falls in that category because he is better than the fans think he is, but he's not good enough or as good as he was his rookie season all the way up into Minnesota.
Well, whether we like it or not, whether we agree with it or not, which I personally do not, but due to what happened in Minneapolis, that's just a stigma that will follow him for the entirety of his career.
Until he has a season of multiple interceptions where he is a playmaker, scoring touchdowns off of interceptions, because that will erase that stigma. And he hasn't had that. In fact, he hasn't had a season of consistently picking off passes since his rookie year. And I think that's what's haunting him even more than his mistake he made in Minnesota.
Well, I may be alone in this assessment, but I don't fault him for that play. I really don't. You show me a guy that messes up going wide open, he made a mistake.
Yeah.
And I hate to use the term made a rookie mistake. Mm-hmm. Because when you're on that field, it doesn't matter if you're a rookie or a 10-year veteran. You're one of the players and you got to get it done. He made a mistake and it cost dearly.
Yep.
But he was playing wide open when he did it.
Yeah. No. I mean, I think if he would have tried to jump the pass and just miss it, like he was going for the interception and just missed it, or like got a piece of the ball, but just enough that it kind of spun in the air and was just a tip drill kind of thing, I think he probably gets forgiven a little bit more for that play. But his head down.
I would discuss this intimately. Had he continued his line that he was on, they would have called him for pass interference. Minnesota lined up and kicked the field goal.
Probably. I mean, the main thing he should have done is just get behind between Diggs and the sideline. Let him catch the ball in front of you, but tackle him inbounds, and the clock runs out and the game's over. But you just don't let him get behind you. But for whatever reason, he ducked his head and made compounded the mistake by taking Ken Crawley out when he did it.
Yeah, because Crawley, the only other Saint player on that side.
Yeah, and Crawley probably in a position to at least get a piece of the guy. And it was just so many mistakes in that one play. But that's not why I don't hold that against him. I mean, I still got the picture of him right here from that same game. This is the interception he makes right after the Saints finally get on the board. And that leads to 14 to make it 17-14 at that point in the game. So he started the big comeback, in that second half. So he
Yeah,
had his good moments. It's just we didn't get enough of these.
That was the remark that I made at the time.
Yeah.
People can fault him for making what they perceive to be a mistake, but were it not for Marcus Williams, we'd have never been in a position to have the lead at that point in the game anyway.
Right, exactly. Because, you know, there are multiple opportunities in that game the Saints had to put it away. In the first half, where he throws an interception when the Saints were in scoring position. Um, that was right near the end of the first half. Later on in that game, um, they set up perfectly a halfback option pass using Willie Snead to hit as the halfback in this case, throwing a pass to a wide open Alvin Kamara, and he probably completed that pass 10 out of 10 times in practice. And in the actual game situation, you overthrew him. And then at the end of the game, the reason we had to settle for a field goal instead of taking the lead was once again on 3rd and short, we didn't convert. So we had to kick the field goal. So there are multiple opportunities outside of that miracle play that the Saints had to win that game. And it's kind of been the story the past 3 seasons. Opportunities missed to win games. So that's kind of why I wanted to go in position by position breakdown where we need to upgrade or fix so we can maximize these opportunities to put games away. And part of it is the offensive line. Part of it is upgrading the receiving core. Part of it is upgrading the linebacker position. And part of it now is going to be upgrading the secondary. And I don't think Vonn Bell is the problem. I think we need a playmaker in that secondary who can force turnovers, and we need consistency out of our cornerbacks.
Exactly. You made the comment a little while ago that you don't think that, or you don't see Chauncey Gardner Johnson as being the playmaker that Darren Sharper was.
No.
And I get that. But at the same time, I'm really anxious to see where he takes his level of play now with a whole season under his belt, a little experience, and an off-season program to address his weaknesses and build on his strengths.
Well, one of the things I think that needs to happen is he doesn't have to be Darren Sharper, but I would like to see the consistency of Sammy Knight.
Absolutely.
And that's what we should be targeting right now. We need a Sammy Knight kind of safety. A guy who just makes plays when we need a play made. If there was a weakness in the Dome Patrol years, that's where the weakness was during the Dome Patrol years, was in the secondary. They couldn't make the plays they needed to make when they needed to make them. It just didn't happen in the secondary. I'm talking about the front 7 was great. The linebackers, of course, were awesome, but Toy Cook, Brett Maxey. I'm gonna stick with Reggie Jones because he was probably your best corner of all the people that were in that other corner position, whether it's Van Jakes, whether it's Reggie Sutton who couldn't stir up the cocaine, whether it's oh God, there's so many players. Milton Mack had played there at one point. They tried so many different corners on the opposite side of who, once they moved Dave Waymer to safety, once they put Tory Cook in that one spot. I mean, I'm talking that 6-year span. That secondary was just, it needed a playmaker back then. It just could not get one in the passing game. And that coupled with an offense that just didn't lack the big play ability, that's why you went 0-4 in the playoffs.
So I think that you and I are basically in agreement that of all pardon me, I'm struggling.
That's all right.
Of all the upcoming free agents that we need to retain, we would both put Vonn Bell at the top of that list.
Yeah, because Drew Brees is coming back. We don't have to worry about him signing with someone else. It's just getting him in a contract that's workable, that will fit the salary cap for him, that leaves us money for other players. But Vonn Bell is a guy we can't afford to lose. So yeah, I would put him at the top of the list. As
I
guys,
don't even I don't even put Breeze in that category.
yeah,
That's just a matter of it'll be done. There's no sense
right,
in worrying about that.
right. So some people are concerned that okay, if you pay Breeze, how much money does that leave for everybody else? And they all talk about that hometown discount, or Breeze needs to play for less so we can waste money on other players. But you know, I think Breeze will get paid what he deserves, and the Saints will make it work somehow with their contract, Loomis's contract. It's just a question of what does the because I know they've got a number in mind for Vonn Bell or that safety position. The question is, can they get Vonn Bell to that number? Um, or does someone try to outbid the Saints for him? Because that's really how you have to look at free agency when it comes to the Saints. They have in their mind how much they want to spend on a position. Okay. So for safety, they want to spend this much. And I'm not just pulling this out of my backside. I mean, if you look at the Saints historically, the reason why we didn't re-sign Carl Nix was because this is how much we were going to pay a guard, a Pro Bowl guard on this team. And if you look when they brought in Ben Grubbs, that's exactly what they paid. Ben Grubbs is what they were offering Carl Nix. So that's just how this team operates.
Yeah,
If the market is set at a higher level, it's not because of Breeze's money or in this case Michael Thomas's money or things like that. It's because this is how much they were willing to spend on a player at this position. So that's just how you have to kind of look at stuff because they were interested in Adam Humphries last year, but they got priced out of the market on wide
yeah.
receivers. So rather than overspend on another player, the Saints just say, well, you know what? Then we'll just take that money and we'll put it somewhere else, and we'll figure out what we're going to do from there. Um, okay, so we kind of touched on Marcus Williams as we talk about Chauncey Gardner Johnson, but there's one other safety I want to talk about real quick. Because JT Gray, I don't even have his picture in the thing because JT Gray is strictly a special teams guy. He made Chris Banjo irrelevant, and we let him go at the end of preseason last year. And JT Gray ended up being a pretty visible tackler on special teams. But if he's out there playing safety, it should only be because the Saints are destroying somebody and they're putting all the backups in. He is not a capable starting safety. But
Yeah, he's out there something terribly wrong.
yeah, he did play a good bit this past season because of injuries and because the guy who I want to talk about now, Saquan Hampton, really didn't look too good when he played much last season. Do you remember him being out there much?
I remember a few plays
Yeah.
here and there. Nothing that just jumped off the page. So.
Well,
But so this is what I believe that the Saints need to do.
Mhm.
You're not going to have to worry about, I mean, not necessarily the free agency stuff, but say we go into the season, you're not going to have to worry about Vonn Bell. You're not going to have to worry about Marcus Williams, Lattimore, Chauncey Gardner Johnson. These are not the guys that are the biggest concern for me. The biggest concern for me is if something happens with them, what do we have behind them?
Mm-hmm.
The depth is what's been the issue for me in the secondary for a while.
Well, yeah, and
Because there's such a steep drop off in the level of talent from starter to backup.
well, and that's
And
go ahead. No, go ahead.
And it's the same with the wide receiver core. The same with the linebacker position.
Yeah.
And I would like to see us get a little more capable backups depth in more than one position.
Well, again, that's where the re-signing of Vonn Bell kind of sets that whole table for you, because if they lose Vonn Bell, now you're talking about promoting Chauncey Gardner Johnson to strong safety with Marcus Williams at free. Saquan Hampton's your next man up. That's where you have an issue. So you're probably going to have to look for a starter, possibly as a strong safety, if you lose Vonn Bell, and that's your veteran. And how much you're going to have to spend on a veteran safety if that happens is probably more than what you're going to, or you sign an old person, at the whatever money you wanted to pay Vonn Bell or less. So yeah, that's the issue. That's where Saquan Hampton fits in here in this discussion, because he did not show much growth or much development. So it does make you concerned where your depth is, because you're only one player deep. Unfortunately, because JT Gray plays special teams, you can only have four other safeties. You cannot load up enough on safeties. You don't have the bodies, and you don't have the roster room. You really don't. Um, you're going to have to decide: Does Hampton is Hampton going to be my safety, my backup strong safety, or am I going to bring in a veteran and release Hampton and his cheap contract, or do I draft somebody this year to kind of play that and see if he develops better than Hampton does as my possible strong safety behind Vonn Bell? And I don't know. I don't know where that goes. Again, Bell shapes everything, because they tried last year to bring in Kurt Coleman and ended up having to deactivate him most of the season, because he just, no, I'm sorry, not last year, year before last. 2018. They ended up having to deactivate him most of the season because he was terrible. He was old.
Yeah, if you're bringing in somebody else's retreads,
Yeah,
that's all you're getting.
And you did it because you needed the depth, and you also could get what you could afford. You're not paying top dollar for a backup player as a safety. You're just not, because there's just not enough snaps out there to justify the salary. And that's the issue that the Saints end up being in. And that's why the draft in this case is important. I saw Bobby Abear on WWL put his mock draft up. What was it, yesterday, Tuesday, Monday maybe, or yesterday was Monday. I forgot what day it was. It was either Monday night or Sunday. He put up his mock draft, and he has the Saints taking Delpit from LSU as a 24th pick, and I didn't like that at all. I don't see drafting a safety in the first round. First off, makes much sense.
No.
But secondly, I looked to see who was still on the board when they made that pick, and Chenault from Colorado, that receiver, was still on the board. In fact, they have him going to the Packers. And then the linebacker from Oklahoma I like a lot, Murray. He was still on the board, and they had him going somewhere right after that pick too. So I'm like, I take Chenault or Murray way before I would take Delpit right there. I mean, honestly, safety, I'm looking at later in the draft, possibly fourth round pick. If we did something crazy, which we've never done under Sean Payton, but if we do something crazy like trade back to pick up an extra second rounder, then I can see, okay, you know what? Maybe we can make a move and bring in somebody like that, but not with you only having a first and a third. No, I just can't see that. I really don't. Because, again, I'm just thinking if you got Vonn Bell in there, you got Chauncey Gardner Johnson, and Marcus Williams all in that thing, you don't want to burn a high draft pick on a guy who's probably not going to play much, if at all, until you have to make a decision with Marcus Williams, because that that's just what you're pretty much saying. I'm getting rid of Marcus Williams. Then,
Yeah.
um, and I just don't see doing that right now. I don't like that draft pick at all. That has nothing to do with LSU. The fact that he played at LSU, I don't like the position. I don't want to take a safety in the first.
No, it's got nothing to do with
right,
the top.
right. He may be the 24th. Right. He may be the 24th best player on the board. I don't know, but it's just not. That's not the player I want or the position I want. In the first round,
same thing that I've said repeatedly over and over and over, and we'll continue to say this time of year. In my opinion, just strictly me, you don't, in the first round, you don't go with the best player available. You go with the player that fits your needs best in the first round. Now, from that point on, sure, especially when you have no second round and you're going to be the third round making your next pick. You go with whatever is the best player available. But in the first round, you have got to draft a difference maker and somebody that's going to be an almost immediate contributor to your squad.
I'm thinking best player available if he's an upgrade to what I have started as a starter. And I say that like, okay, let's just say, for example, the first round rolls around and you watch a cornerback drop, okay? And again, cornerback, linebacker, and wide receiver are my positions in that first round. You're watching a cornerback drop. Obviously, even if you spend the money and keep Janoris Jenkins and you keep Marshawn Lattimore, I said this last week, you take that cornerback right there because at worst he's your nickelback, but eventually he's going to be your starter. You're hoping he's going to be a starter. The same with your linebacker. But let's say, for the sake of argument, you've got an offensive tackle that's sliding down the board. And this is a guy that should have gone in the top 10. And he's sliding to you to 20. He's getting closer and closer to 24. You've got Teron Armstead. You've got Ryan Ramczyk. You need a third tackle. You take him. Okay? Even though he's not going to be your starter, he could possibly play your guard position or he could be your third tackle. It's still a position where you're looking at an upgrade over probably Teron Armstead right at that point. So, yeah.
Well, maybe I didn't express myself right. I don't mean someone that's going to be a day one starter. I'm talking about someone that is going to make a contribution.
Yeah.
Immediately.
Right.
I don't necessarily mean you in that first round when you draft somebody. Your expectation is that they're going to come in and start day one. No, that wasn't exactly what I was saying.
No, I get you. I get it, and I can't think of too many positions except for defensive end and running back. I really can't think of any too many positions where I don't see the Saints. Safety, kicker, punter, and running back, and that's really about it. On defensive end, the only places where I can't say don't take a guy, because everywhere else, I think you can take a guy. I think you can take a defensive tackle if they got a great one that's hanging out there. I think because you can't have too many defensive tackles. obviously we need a linebacker in the worst way, the weak side and the middle linebacker, cornerback, wide receiver, obviously, offensive line, tight end, um, you know, almost every position, every other position on the field. I just those are positions where you're going to draft your first rounder, and he's probably going to be he should be an upgrade to what you have, or will be an upgrade to what you have. Um, and that's why I said defensive end. You're not going to get much better than Cam Jordan and Marcus Davenport, especially what you gave up for Marcus Davenport.
Yeah.
He's young. You're not ready to move on from Cam Jordan yet. So, but yeah, that's why going way back to what I started all this on. That's why I did not like that draft pick at 24. If that would have been my third round pick, I'd have been like, yeah, I can see that because again, going back to Hampton, I wasn't too impressed with what I saw out of Hampton. So a third rounder, I would like to get a receiver and a linebacker earlier than that. But if I get a backup safety that can possibly move up or be my nickel back, if I move Chauncey Gardner Johnson to replace Marcus Williams, hey, that's all in play. So I like that. Just throw them out there and see who rises to the top. I'm all good with that. But other than that, it's not. You need that 5-year cheap rookie contract. Don't waste it on a guy you don't plan on starting right away, or you've got a lot of young players who are close to his age in front of him. It doesn't make much sense.
No.
So let's look at free agency then, and see what kind of market we think this will possibly be for Vonn Bell, because I think Vonn Bell is one of the top safeties on the market. Let's see. I had this up earlier, and I'm mad that I closed this. I shouldn't have closed
First of all,
it.
has Vonn Bell fulfilled his contract?
I think he has.
No, what I mean is we have not got him under contract.
No. He has done. He has done. He had a 3-year deal because he was a second round pick. So,
Okay.
or a 4-year deal. I think he had a 4-year deal. Yeah, because he was 2016 with Michael Thomas. So yeah, 4-year deal. Damn it! Don't freeze up on me. This is why I did not want this site. Well, some of these sites, they've got so many pictures and ads and stuff and videos they want to load, and it pisses me off. Because it's just I I don't want to see all that shit. Okay, see, Walter Football is one of the ones that's terrible about it. Okay, so your safeties that are out there right now, Anthony Harris, who would probably be the fallback option. I hate to say if Vonn Bell does in fact move on, Anthony Harris is probably your second best option to replace Vonn Bell. Um, After that, it kind of drops off. Justin Simmons, the safety for the Broncos. Jimmy Ward from the 49ers, who I wasn't that impressed with. I know this is Walter Football's listing, but I wasn't that impressed with anybody in the 49ers secondary last year. I thought that was their weakest spot.
I thought that was the weakest part of their defense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Jimmy Ward probably get paid big money anyway. They're probably going to spend a lot of money to keep that guy. Okay. See, again, this thing is just, you know what? Like I said, that this is why I did not want to. Did not want to go to this site because there was too many fucking images and everything else that opens up on that. But everybody else stacks it up as
Well, where do they have Vonn Bell rated?
I want to say I got Vonn Bell rated like 4 or 5. But let me go back and look. I'm looking at NFL Network. This is the video one, the one I got to worry about them sticking with videos left and right. Okay, safeties. They got Vonn Bell. This is NFL Network. They've got Vonn Bell as a top-rated safety with Anthony Harris behind him. Devin McCourty. That was the one I was thinking of. Devin McCourty. He's 33 years old though. Now he's playing one of his some of his best football, but
Yeah.
he that that's an age issue with him. And yeah, they got Jimmy Ward like a 10. But and haha, Clinton Dix is in there. Rodney McLeod, Demarius Randall, Justin Simmons from the Broncos, who we talked about a minute ago. Um, and it's talking about how these safeties fit your system. Vonn Bell and Anthony Harris both really fit what the Saints like to do defensively. I don't know if Jimmy Ward really does because they play so much zone um, in San Francisco. It gives him the room to roam, and he drops down in the box a lot more, even more than Vonn Bell does. So, um, yeah, that's your top safeties on there. And it doesn't differentiate between strong and free, which I don't like.
Yeah.
Um, I like because some of these guys I'm not that familiar with to know if
Yeah.
they can play both.
And I think you made a very good point on Devin McCourty. This past year was probably the best season he's had as a professional.
And it's Bill Belichick's defense,
Yeah.
so you have to put an it's like don't take coaches from that team and don't take many players from that team, although a lot of people want Jamie Collins as a linebacker. Um, but yeah, do not take uh, you have to be aware of what you take from the Patriots because so much of it is how Belichick puts these guys in positions to be successful, not that they are just superior players.
Yeah.
Um,
He's obviously he's probably going to be regarded as one of the greatest coaches to ever do it.
absolutely, absolutely.
But
It's because what he can
I
do.
can't, right off the top of my head, I can't think of another coach that has absolutely capitalized on the strengths of the players that he's had the way Belichick has.
Right, right, and yeah, that's the key. It really is. It's Belichick can do things with players and get players to respond to him doing these things with them, unlike any other coach, at least in the past 20, 25 years. You'd have to go
Yeah,
way back to the 60s and the early 70s with Lombardi and Landry and Knoll and players like that, coaches like that, who could get more out of a player than Belichick gets out of players today.
you go back to Landry, and as great a coach as he was,
Mhm.
one of the things that I always will remember about him is how determined he was that he was going to use a two quarterback system.
Yeah,
And that that baffles.
he believed in that system, and his system, he just like Bill Walsh with the 49ers, his system told him that players should be able to execute what I want them to do if they just don't think and do what I told them to do. Don't try
Yeah.
and freelance. And that was Landry's problem. And to an extent that was Noel's issue. Not Noel, I'm sorry, um Walsh's problem. I watched NFL films, Football Life on Bill Walsh. I've watched that many, many times.
Yeah.
And this is something Bill Walsh and uh, Bill Belichick have in common. Walsh told Randy Cross, told this to Dwight Clark, told to Ronnie Lott, told even Joe Montana. He told these players, well, you're not going to finish your career here. Once we chart your decline, we're going to get rid of you. And he did that, and he burnt a lot of bridges by doing that. But that was his mantra. I can get other players that can execute my offense. I don't need to show the loyalty to players to keep them around past their prime. So I'm going to move on from them.
Yeah.
And that at the heart was why they got Steve Young when they did from Tampa Bay, because he was going to move on from Joe Montana. And the fact that they won a Super Bowl in '87 and in '88, I'm sorry, let me back that up. They won a Super Bowl in '88 and '89. The Redskins won in '87. But the fact that he won a Super Bowl in '88 and '89 with Montana, now granted, Walsh left after the '88 season, um, was a coincidence. But after the failures of '85 and '86, and even to a certain extent '87, um, Walsh was getting ready to move on to Steve Young that early. And part of the '88 season was him, just like Tom Landry, going with a two quarterback system. Because he was messing with that chemistry, because he was ready to move on to somebody else just to execute his system even better. Because he felt like Montana had peaked and was going past his prime. Yeah, so it was that's why I said I think Belichick has been the master of overcoming that problem, um, that Landry and Walsh could not get past.
Really fascinating football life the other night on Paul Brown.
Oh, that's a great one. That's a great one.
And one of the things that I took away from that is a comment that was made during it about you've got the Lombardi Trophy, you've got the Hallis Trophy, you've got, why do we have nothing to commemorate Paul Brown?
Yeah, yeah. It's. I was trying to think though, what you really could do. There's really, I don't know what the Palm Brown Trophy would be, because obviously division, you win your conference. That's Lamar Hunt has to be the AFC,
Yeah.
and Papa Bear Hallis, the founder of the league, has to be the NFC.
Well, I don't necessarily.
No, I'm just saying, but you're running out of trophies. Do you give the Pro Bowl trophy, the Palm Brown Trophy, to win the Pro Bowl? That's
That
kind
was
of
an insult considering the
exactly,
Pro Bowl these days.
exactly. But everything that Paul Brown did, you see it in the game today. The film breakdown, the teaching, the classroom. It's funny because when I tell people this, they look at me like I'm crazy, but I'm like, just the idea of, okay, we're going to draw the plays up on the blackboard. Then we're going to go outside and rehearse these plays and practice these plays. And people are like, well, yeah, that's common sense. But they didn't do that before. They drew plays in the dirt back then, and they kind of improvised it on the field. There were no